I think that, yes, it is all little miracles, and you're going to miss them. You are missing them every single day by not choosing to be present. And I say that from experience. My whole life, I've been walking around asleep. I don't notice the birds chirping when everyone's saying, "Oh my God, what a noise!" I'm like, oh yeah, I guess they are. Right. Everything that we found, the universe talks to us in very subtle ways, and the only way that we're going to be able to hear the universe is if we are paying attention. And paying attention means being in the present moment. It's a very difficult thing to do in this world, but it's so important, because if we don't live in the present moment as much as we can, we're going to miss the whole reason we're here, and that is to experience our lives. It just set me into going down this path that helped me to realize that there's a lot more to this world, to this reality, than we really see or are programmed to see. Karen's always she's always seen life from the lens of love, and so that allows her to experience more of the hope, the joy, and the mystery, the magic of life. Where I have spent my life on the opposite side of things, where it's been very pragmatic, it's been very physical, it's been very allopathic, it's very show me scientific in a way, although not a scientist. And so bringing these two perspectives together makes it interesting.
You're so much stronger than you think you are. I mean, think of all the stuff that you've gone through in your life already, and here we are. I mean, birth, whew, that's a toughie, you know. So knowing that you have that strength and letting that kind of sit with you, then you can try, because it can be very, very hard when you're in that dark spot, to really notice other things and not focus on what's turning off the light.
Will and Karen, welcome. I am really looking forward to our conversation.
As are we. Thanks for inviting us.
We're happy to be here.
So I'd love to hear more about your story of how you started the Skeptical Metaphysicians podcast, and also network. I believe you have a streaming service that you offer. So I'd love for you to tell us a little more about what it is that you are creating right now, and what is your purpose?
Whew, that's a big question.
That's a big question.
Karen, want to start?
Actually, why don't you do the podcast? I'll do the network.
Perfect. Sounds like a great idea. So the podcast is called The Skeptic Metaphysicians, and it was created back in 2020 when the world was shutting down. Just like everybody else out there, it seems, I had an existential crisis, and I was forced to take time off of work and to look at myself in the mirror. Didn't like what I saw, so I went to therapy. Was very lucky to have a therapist who believed in meditation, and she turned me back onto it. I had been studying metaphysics and spirituality and all that kind of stuff when I was in my 20s. I'm just a couple of years older than that now, but so life got in the way, and I forgot all about it. But she turned me back onto it, and it was a game changer. So what I started doing was I picked up a book of a copy of one of my favorite books called Conversations with God. And every morning I would sit and read one of the passages from the book, and I would speak into my cell phone, like a voice memo, to speak about what it meant to me. And I started putting those up on the platform as a podcast, as a way for me to get it out to the universe, to affirm my affirmations. However, it started getting so personal, so personal, that I said I ended up taking those down, and instead starting having conversations, kind of like what we're having now, with people that I knew back in my 20s. I reached out to them and said, "Hey, you're a Reiki master. Can we talk about what Reiki is?" Then I spoke to a psychic that was referred to me about the heavy questions. Why are we here? What does this all mean? What happens after we die? Things like that. And little by little, I started to understand my place in the world, why I had been the way I was, why I was experiencing a crisis, what I needed to do to make myself better. And then I invited Karen to come on board as a co-host, and the show became so much better that we never looked back. And then from this point, I'll let Karen take over.
So the show is taking a lot of time out of our regular life, because you find the people to interview, and then you do the interviews, and then you edit and all of that. And well, it was taking a lot of time out of Will's day because I just kind of show up and talk. But he was missing out on a lot of events with our daughter and just things. And so we decided, okay, it's time, you've gotten what you need out of this. It's probably time to let it go. But before we did that, we're like, let's just see if anyone's even listened at all ever. And we didn't really know a lot about podcasting at the time. So we happened upon, I guess it was Apple Podcasts, I think. And we found that there were pages of reviews, and there were like multiple pages of reviews of our podcast where people had actually taken time out of their day and written paragraphs about our little show. So, we were reading these, and they were fortunately all good. And we were just amazed, right? And then the last one that we saw, a gentleman was talking about how he can't really talk to people about these thoughts he's having. And the last thing he said was, "Thank you for helping me feel normal." And we thought, wow, if we're helping even one person with this podcast, we can't stop. And, like they say, when you're doing something and it's coming from the right place, the universe helps you. And it just kind of dropped some software into Will's lap that cut down on his time. It cut down to about a third. So he was able to continue with the editing of the podcast, but also be at dinner with us and do all the stuff that he was starting to miss. So the more we talked about it and realized that this is actually, we're not special. We just talk to people about their gifts, but it's helping people. We thought, well, if our one show is helping people, can you imagine what a bunch of these shows could do? So we decided to help with that, and we started newrealitytv.com, and it's a streaming podcast or streaming platform similar to like if you merged Netflix and Gaia. It's all in this spiritual, metaphysical, uplifting space. And you can watch things on the international broadcast. You can watch shows on demand. But the goal really was to, we liken it to everyone, all of our content partners. We have people literally all over the world creating shows that we air on New Reality. But we likened it to, they're all holding up their candle in the darkness, doing their best to light as much as they can. But one little flame can't really do a lot. So we thought if we gathered all of those flames together, then we can just create this really big, beautiful beacon that can help guide people along their journey. So that's what NRTV is, New Reality TV.
In a very quick nutshell.
Very quick nutshell.
So how did Will, you mentioned seeking something, right? Some sort of a crisis. So what prompted even to start all these big existential spiritual questions?
Well, as the world was closing down, I was forced to look at my actions in the past and found I didn't like who I was. I was very judgmental. I was very angry. I was very self-entitled. I am a television
destructive,
very, very self-destructive, self-sabotage, the whole deal. I'm a television executive by trade, and so if you can imagine the stereotypical TV exec, that's who I was. And it suddenly, literally from one day to another, there was a light switch. Something happened that forced me to look at myself and say, that's not who I want to be. I was no longer aligned with the things I was doing. I no longer felt comfortable with the sensationalism, with the fear-based, the triggers that it takes to bring someone in as an audience member, and I didn't see a way out of it. I didn't know how to get out of it because it's what I've always done my entire career. And then it affected my family life. I started, because I was working 60, 80 hours a week. I didn't, like Karen said, didn't have time for the family. It was affecting me. I was constantly working. I was constantly
angry,
in a bad mood. My family was suffering from it. My friends were suffering. I was losing everything around me. And in an instant, it all just came crashing down on me. And I knew something had to change. I didn't know what. I didn't know how. I just knew that something had to change because I could not go on the way that I was being. And therapy was my first step. It was my attempt at what the heck? What can I do? How can I move forward? And it was the first step to a completely different world that has made all of the difference. It has changed all of our lives, I would say, exponentially, just by taking that first step of, I don't know, divine intervention, whatever you want to call it, that just struck me like a 2x4 to the head and said, no more. You cannot be this anymore.
So it was like one kind of like a specific like moment where you saw it, or was it gradual where you knew kind of like that dissatisfaction or some sort of like you knew that who you didn't like who you were becoming for a while?
It was an immediate, all of a sudden, and then the depth of it was more a gradual discovery. It was an immediate, like, oh my God, and then with this, what do you mean? And then the discovery of just how far this existential crisis, the tendrils
Deep
reached
rooted.
into. Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because like when you think about like maybe, you know, roughly about the personality you're describing, that many times they don't see themselves that way, or they're happy existing in those patterns. And even, you know, I'm sure you had feedback, you know, from others and not being happy. But that's why I was asking, because some people, you know, they are really unhappy in their situations, and it's a build, you know, over
Yeah.
decades.
The challenge is, and you're right, I did get red flags, and people were telling me, hey, you don't see it. You don't want to see it. Everything's fine. I'm working. Everything is perfect. Exactly. You know, the challenge, the issue is on your end, not on mine. You're the one that's entitled. You're the one that's angry. It's not me. You don't see it when you're in the middle of it. It's not until someone has to make a conscious decision to take a step back and look at yourself in a whole way, rather than through the filters that we have built up around us, before you can make any kind of change, any kind of marked change. And those filters for me fell all at one time. And I did take a minute to look at myself, truly look at myself, and went, oh, wow. And then through therapy, you start looking at all the filters that were there. Why are they there? What made them go there? What does it mean to have them? Because I mean, this world programs us from the time we were born. Who you are supposed to be, what you're supposed to believe in, what the education system is, what the political system is, how the money works. But we are being programmed every single day to fit into the society in which we live and breathe every single day. And depending on your culture, you're programmed in that particular way. You're told to believe a certain thing. But it's not until you take a minute and you choose to look at that programming that has been given to you, and you decide, this is something that works for me, this is something that does not work for me, and understand where they came from, you won't be able to change it. There's a big adage that says, you can't change a tiger's stripes. That's because, excuse me, I believe that the tiger doesn't realize it has stripes. The minute the tiger looks at the stripes and says, why do I have stripes? And who put them there, and what's the purpose of them? Then the tiger starts looking at the reasoning why, and then you start unpeeling the onion of a way to make that change, until you really fully look at yourself in complete courage and bravery, and are willing to accept the fact that you have not been who you thought you were for a very long time. It's very difficult to make a change.
And sometimes it is about hitting that rock bottom.
Yep.
You know.
Oh yeah. I mean, many times, because I mean, usually we'll keep on keeping on until we are forced or brought down to our knees. And how did you go full on from therapy, you know, which is still kind of a very worldly, you can even call it one of the programs, and or framework that's very accepted, right, by the system, to diving deep and seeing the programs and metaphysics, right? And, you know, consciousness, and that's like
Yeah,
a whole different level of spirituality.
absolutely. Therapy is a very 3D modality, right? A very physical modality. But like I mentioned, I was fortunate to have found a therapist that was tuned in to this spiritual awakening space, or the metaphysics space, to a certain extent. She never threw anything on me. The point of meditation, when she turned me onto it, was I had a very extremely high level of anxiety, and meditation was her way to get me to lower that anxiety levels down, so that we could get into unpacking the issues that were affecting me. I used meditation immediately as such an escape that I fell into meditation so deeply and so hard, for lack of a better term, that I literally I would meditate 3 times a day for about 20 to 30 minutes per meditation session. And it took me maybe a minute to fall into such a deep meditation that when you do a lot of these, it was mindfulness, right? Focus on your breath, that kind of thing. When you're hyper focused on something for that long, certain things start being revealed to you about who you are, about existential truths of what you have been believing for a long period of time. And so those questions, those answers that were coming to me begat more questions that I had to find out. And I just happened to stumble on this. I've been carrying the Conversations with God book for decades. I didn't particularly care for the book too much because it had the word God in it. I'm not a religious guy. In fact, my whole life I've felt that organized religion is probably the root of all the problems that the world has. I don't necessarily believe that now. However, because the book had the word God in it, I didn't sit down and really dive into it because I didn't think it was for me. But in my search for whatever, how can I help myself? Let's see what this book has to say. And within 2-3 pages, I was completely, hooked is it's not even saying it deeply enough. It completely changed my entire worldview. Because the book Conversations with God is exactly the opposite of what you think it is when you first hear the book. It's not a religious book at all. It's actually a gentleman who's a writer whose life was falling apart. And he sat down and wrote a letter to God asking him, why? Why are you doing this to me? Why is my life like this? And to his surprise, God answered back and said, do you really want to know? And it begat a dialogue, a conversation, an interview that he had with God, this entity that considered God. And he would ask any question and God would answer. And it's all automatic writing, right? As he was writing it down, but he was channeling this energy through him onto the page. And it revealed universal truths that somewhere deep inside me, I know fit my worldview. And it completely resonated. And it just set me into going down this path that helped me to realize that there's a lot more to this world, to this reality than we really see or are programmed to see.
So through your own seeking, how did the idea to start a podcast came about? So you were a producer, right? Things are not working, you're seeking. So, and you're doing these affirmations and recording them. And how did you pivot to interviews and kind of what would you say now is your purpose through that podcast? And Karen, maybe also for you joining the podcast as you see it now.
Quickly, I would say that the purpose for me to do the show at first was purely selfish. It was a way for me to have these conversations. When you're a podcast host, you have access to certain personalities that you wouldn't perhaps have access to without the show. So I was able to reach out to a lot of spiritual leaders in the space to ask them the burning questions that I had. Why? How? What's going on? What's the real truth here? And so it was a selfish endeavor because I needed to figure out what the heck I was going to do. Over time, I started feeling better. And when I brought Karen in, it became more of a joint thing we did together. Karen has always believed. She's always known this world. I was the skeptical one. I was the one on the fringes. In fact, she and I had probably one of our biggest arguments ever was when we were going to send our daughter to preschool. And the best school in this area happens to be a Presbyterian school. And I mentioned earlier, I thought organized religion was the bane of this world. And so I was 100% aghast and against it. And so we had a very big argument because I was saying I don't want my daughter to be indoctrinated this way, where she was saying it's not about that. It's about the best education that we can get at the moment. And so over time, I learned how wrong I was because she wasn't indoctrinated. She went to the Presbyterian school and she wasn't indoctrinated. And in fact, the people there are lovely, wonderful, beautiful people that just want the best for mankind. So it started cracking that egg for me. And bringing Karen into the show was a way for me to share with her this world that I was so deep into that I felt important she get a glimpse into. Because a lot of times in the spiritual path, sometimes couples will veer off from each other, and I didn't want that to happen. So I wanted to bring her in and include her. And I did it at first we had some mutual friends who came on the show, and I said, hey, you know them. Why don't you come and be a guest host? It'll be the four of us. It'll be fun. That was the first one, and it was so much fun that we just never looked back after that.
That's
How about you?
awesome. So, Karen, what did you do before joining the podcast, and what do you see as your purpose right now?
Well, before joining the podcast, he was kind of going through his stuff. And it was, from my side of that experience, it was pretty difficult because I was the recipient of the bad moods, the stress, the all of the stuff. And it did build a lot of resentment. So then I found myself in a situation where I had to take care of someone who had been not great for, so that was for me probably one of the biggest tests of my strength and for the love that I felt for him. Because underneath all of that, anger and whatever, there was love, and it's very, very strong. And that was able to kind of get us through that. And that is something that love in general, there's so many different types of love, and people, you think about it's like, mother daughter or relationship, but there's so much more to it than that. And that has been something that has always been, I guess, a tenet of my life. Just exploring and feeling that. And so with these conversations that we have, it's an incredible energy exchange with the people that we talk to, and just feeling that energy and mixing and mingling and feeling that love and finding different ways to spread it. Because I think that, honestly, it sounds so cliche, but I think that lack of, it's not the lack of love, it's lack of understanding really what love is one of the biggest problems that we have, because people are so fixated on one type and thinking they don't have it, and that taints their whole outlook of everything. But when they can open their eyes and see, oh, there's this and there's that, and okay, I'm not alone. It's not just me. It's fostering that community, that feeling of we are all in this together. We're all muddling our way through. And love is that little tiny string that connects us all, that love, that energy, that light. And so for me, being a part of this podcast is helping to build that, helping to show people, to put that out front so they'll see and they'll realize, because I really do think that that's what's going to make it a better world.
Yeah. And then after she found those reviews, when we realized how much help we were doing for others, it no longer was a case of a selfish, I'm doing this for me. We were going to close the show. The mission changed from let's help Will to let's have these conversations to help Will, but also maybe a lot of other people out there too. So it just broadened the scope of who we felt we were serving at that time.
And it's a beautiful way for anybody who's still seeking for their own purpose and answers and the missing pieces of the puzzle, is that you can totally use that lack of clarity, that journeying, and as a foundation or as a way or kind of a thread, and share it with others, and that can lead you. It's kind of like this dance, right? And a perfectly valid part of the journey, right? Where you can build on that also is a part of leading you to your answers.
Yeah, no question. And in fact, I think what we found is what surprised me the most was, so I've always been I need an answer person. What is the answer? And what I found was there is no answer. There's an answer for me, but it might be completely different answer for you, for Karen. It might be totally different answer for you, Baiba, but it's...
So there is an answer. There's not just one answer.
Yes. That's a way better way of saying it. Yeah, way better way.
There's your answer. There's somebody else's.
Exactly.
Just like there are a few absolute truths. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
very few. So what the show allows us to do, and subsequently what the streaming platform, what New Reality TV allows us to do, is to explore there's a gazillion number of paths out there. And the difficult thing when I first started out was, wow, what am I supposed to do? Where do I go? Where do I find the answers? We couldn't find a place I couldn't find a place that had those answers. So our show explores all the different modalities, all the different paths, so that you can see if any of these fit for you. And then further out, New Reality TV brings in a vast array of different practitioners, whether they're shamanic practitioners to Thai Buddhist monks to psychics and channelers and healers and all kinds of modalities and practices and paths in this space so that you can explore safely, knowing you're not going to get triggered by a fear-based content, knowing you're not going to be triggered any political content or anything that's divisive. Everything on the platform is meant to uplift. It's meant to help. And so this is a safe space for you to explore all these different paths because there's a lot of them.
Yeah, and you talk about open-mindedness, and I wanted to talk to you about kind of on the platform. I found you on Podmatch, and one of the things that you said that you found the truth of who we are at our core. I'd love for you to share what that is.
So what I found was that at our core, we are all nothing but love, right? That is who we are at our core. The personality that we bring to this world is, like I mentioned, programmed into you through culture, through parents, through family, through experiences that muddy that view of who you are. But the whole point of us being here, in my estimation, because I've learned not to say anything in absolute, is to allow ourselves to experience good, bad, indifferent, everything between. We are here to be able to experience everything, knowing that our true essence, if you strip us all down to our bare nothingness, all that you will find is the energy of love. Like to say there's only love or fear. Those are the two energies and everything else falls behind it. We, I believe, are love that has incarnated in order to experience itself, if that makes sense. But the interesting thing that I find is that no matter how hard we look or how long we look for, we're never going to have all the answers. We're only going to have a little bit of the answer that suits us, that fits us. But when you look at you or look at Karen, that answer doesn't work for her because she has her absolute different answer. And the key here is to understand that and accept that. The minute we look at each other and go, it's completely okay for you to have a completely different thought process about this exact thing. We don't live in the same reality. You and I and Karen and I, we don't live in the same reality. We create our own reality. Every time as we move forward, quantum physics, the double slit experiment that came out, proved that reality does not exist until it's observed, right? I can go into it if you want, but it gets in the weeds. But when something is observed, that's when it takes shape. When she looks at something, it's going to take shape. When I look at something, it's going to take a different shape. We have a combined agreement, a combined reality that we are all living in, but the individual details of our own specific reality are our own. So when you look at something, you've known people that are going through the same experience as someone, and they see it as, oh, this is all terrible. All these things are terrible. Everything that's happening is terrible. And the other person looks at it and it's a completely different opposite. Oh my God, this is incredible. I can't believe this is happening. This is wonderful. How can two people see the exact same thing in such completely diametrically opposed ways? Because we create our own reality. We choose what reality we live in every single day. And that is the essence of who we are. It's the creation. We are creators of our own reality.
Karen, do you want to add your perspective?
Oh, Will and I agree and differ on a lot of things. I don't necessarily feel like you can define it or really even explain it like that. We all do our meditations and we get our downloads. And one of the ones that I got that really kind of answered it for me is that we're all so much more than this body, right? But that being said, and we also had an interesting interview about that last night. We do need to cherish our bodies. I don't like that term meat sack. It's to me it's offensive because this is what allows us to get out there and to experience life and feel and touch and taste and swim and fall and ache and cry and laugh. So we need to cherish this. And every experience that we have, what I believe is it carves like another facet into this beautiful diamond that we are. So that when we are past this 3D and we're back into the spirit, into the universe, we're this incredible diamond that shines even more brightly than it did before we came here.
I love the diamond analogy.
Thank you.
And yeah, you are a diamond even while you're here. That is so beautiful. And you also talked about, and I don't know if it's both of you or Will, was it you who kind of, when you had those questions, it sounds like you were very open-minded and dove deep into, different kind of energies, including working with or researching something around riches. I'd love for you to it seems like you were very driven by the mind, right? By the cognition to prove, and even the name of your podcast is Skeptic, or Skeptic Metaphysicians. So it sounds like there was like a heavy kind of this mind, seeking for answers. And anything else that kind of like stood out in your journey, and what else did you find in terms of like key truths for you?
That's a great question. The show is the Skeptic Metaphysicians because look, my father was a big UFO guy. He sat me in front of an old TV show called In Search Of back in the day, and we used to watch it. And talked about UFOs, the Bermuda Triangle, and ghosts, and all that kinds of stuff. And so I was indoctrinated into all that stuff at a very early age. So I was very fascinated by it all. And the thought of all that being real is incredible. I so badly want to believe these things exist, but I was also raised up in the New York area, and there's a lot of people who are out there to try to swindle you on things. So you learn to be skeptical of a lot of things. And so, though I very badly want to believe that these energies, that these modalities, psychics and mediums and channelers and witches and all these kinds of things, I want to believe that they're real. Life after death, near-death experiences. I really want to believe they're real. I just can't believe that they're real without some sort of proof that they're real.
But isn't it ironic that it's so easy to believe that they're not without proof that they're not real?
Yes, absolutely. But
that's one of the differences between us.
but that's the programming, right? Our programming is when we're born, we are very open to these kinds of things. We had personal experience with someone very young saying, "Hey, where's my brother?" or things like that. Remembering past lives, and University of Virginia right now is doing incredible research onto past lives with children, and they're releasing all kinds of information that pretty much corroborates what people are talking about, that this stuff is real, or real to a sense. So I've always needed that proof, and so that was what was limiting me from getting that proof, because remember, we create our own reality. And so if I'm saying, yeah, I don't know if I believe this stuff, then my reality is going to be one where it's going to be pretty nebulous. I'm not ever going to truly know.
Well, it's like the internet. You feel a little sick and you can look and one thing's like, oh, it's fine. And the other thing's going to be like, oh, you're going to die. I mean, the universe will give you that too. You'll be like, oh, I don't know if this is real. And one thing will show you proof that this is absolutely real. Another side will show you that it's not. So it's just how you choose to look at things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so over time during the show, I've learned that my insistence on having proof is what was limiting me from getting that proof. And when I allowed myself to be open, I researched all the stuff. I became a Reiki practitioner. I joined the coven of witches. I've done many past life regressions and things like that to try to experience it, but it was always from the mind of a skeptic. Whereas now I see it as, what if the possibility is there? And so I say I'm skeptical, not cynical.
Mm-hmm.
So I walk into the conversation with an open mind, but not so open that I will believe anything that's thrown my way, because there's a lot of people out there that may not be exactly what they say they are. So that's, I think, one of the things about our show is that we bring two different perspectives. She comes in as a complete believer.
So Karen is more open, it seems like more spiritual, or yeah.
Yes. Yeah, she's always been
Maybe
much more
just
open to
less
these things.
that kind of that filter. I'm like, I'm searching for the right word.
No, maybe more. I mean, I just have believed maybe longer.
Yeah.
I remember when I was young, I'm like maybe in my teens, having a dream about maybe it was in my 20s. My grandfather, who had passed when I was 5, was with me, and I was laying down, and he was lifting thin blue veils off of my eyes, and he's like, "I want you to see." So I've had different dreams. I've had people that I know, and this has happened a few times, that were very ill and they were very passing. And at some point in the night, I'll hear this, "Goodbye, honey," and they'll have passed at that time.
And that didn't freak you out?
It made me sad.
I mean, it freaked me out. Someone's talking. Who's talking? Who's that?
But I've had enough of those experiences, and I've not really thought to question them, because why would I? Why would I try to prove that that's wrong? Because that would make things sad, and that would make things harder. So I've just always just lived in it.
Yeah, I think Karen's she's always seen life from the lens of love, and so that allows her to experience more of the hope, the joy, and the mystery, the magic of life. Where I have spent my life on the opposite side of things, where it's been very pragmatic, it's been very physical, it's been very allopathic, it's very show me, scientific in a way, although not a scientist. And so bringing these two perspectives together makes it interesting. And the show is very relaxed, very engaging. We laugh a lot. I think we probably spend too much time laughing on the show.
Can it be too much? I love
Yeah,
that.
Exactly.
good point. Yeah,
it's very healing.
Yeah. So we have fun with it. We have fun with the topics. We learn a ton, and
gosh, we've learned a lot.
We have learned,
and we have learned to believe in things that we thought there was no. Even I have there's no way, and you're like, huh? By the end of the interview, wow, that actually could be possible.
Yeah.
So
well, at the same time, holding the line that says, you don't have to believe this. Yeah. If it doesn't resonate with you, then it doesn't resonate with you, and that's perfectly okay. You can move on to the next episode. Maybe that one will be better for you. And that's the guiding light for us. We're not everything's gonna feel right to us, but the whole point of it is, let's explore all of it.
It's like a library. You have all of these books available. You pick out one, you start to read it. It doesn't interest you that much, put it back, pick out another one, just as long as you're reading.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like you have now transmuted a little more from the seeker to an actual, like, your own knowing or gnosis and experience? Or do you feel like you're still kind of in a heavy seeking mode?
I'm a terrible teacher. I will be the first to admit that. So I think I'm always going to be a seeker. I think at this stage, however, when I started the path as a seeker on my own, now I'm a seeker leading a group of people who are all seeking together. And so we're learning together. I think that's really how I see myself.
That's beautiful. How about you, Karen? Anything you would add?
I think the same. I think I have had, we were talking about dreams earlier a few minutes ago, and I've had some dreams that have impacted me. a lot. And I had one, I used to have, it was a regular dream, slightly different, but the same kind of theme over and over again. And it was that I was leading people to the horizon. And in one of these dreams, I was a tall. I was an African American woman with the head wrap and everything, and I was sitting in front of this glistening blue wall with people sitting, and we were talking. And it was more. It was a conversation. I feel like I was like a wise woman or something. I don't know. That's obviously changed, but
No, very wise, my love.
but I think that is part of our path, is to help people find their path. And maybe it's not so much as teaching them this path or this path, but it's teaching them how to look for it, what to recognize, or what to question. And I think that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So if somebody is looking and seeking, how to look for it, what would you point out?
I would start to say, forget everything you've been taught.
Mm.
You know, just because when someone teaches you something, they're giving you, even if they're not trying to, but they're kind of giving you their experience of what this information or what this story is. So it's hard, but it's going to be tainted a little bit. Not tainted, what's the right word? Colored a little bit to their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So learning how to really look at or recognize your own perspective or your own views or your own thoughts on something, it can be really hard to do, because there have been times where, yes, he's my husband and we're just this, we have this bond and we're together, but something he says, I just don't agree with it. But you also don't want to put that barrier or be like, you're over here and I'm over here. But it doesn't have to be that way. You know, you can hold that space for someone else and hold that space for yourself. And so many of us don't. We are so ready to give up our own thoughts and ourself and our own space to do what we think is right, or to please someone, or to be part of the collective.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're saying here is you can give all that up and still be part of the collective. Because I think it'll be stronger if everyone is truly who they are, who their soul is, than trying to fit into a form that's not really them.
That's
So I think I would
beautiful.
say,
Yeah, that you're not going to be an outcast just because you hold on to your sovereignty.
yes.
And I think more and more people are waking up to that fact. We talk to attorneys and doctors and very professional people who 20 years ago would never have considered any of this to be possible. But now it's more and more people are waking up.
And that's what we want to do with New Reality TV, is we have on there, you know, doctors, lawyers, computer programmers, the what we would call the typical mainstream type of person, the people that have walked away from that, from their, you know, $1 million companies, to practice in this space because they're realizing the importance of it. And so many people in their daily jobs or whatever, they're getting these little thoughts, or they're having these questions, but they're too afraid to talk about it. And even though it's becoming more open, it's still, I always call it covert mainstream, because it's mainstream. Everybody knows about it, but they're still not quite talking about it when it comes to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to make it be okay for them to do that.
And you talked a little bit about creation, and you said we are infinite beings of creation, and kind of, I love that from the perspective, because I think too much narrative and even what's going on. I mean, this is a pretty dense planet, and you know, everything to survive and what's going on, the wars, like layoffs, to, you know, you can be hit from left, right, and center here. How would you say, you know, somebody is facing adversity, right? Real circumstances that, you know, it's like you can see in your soul, like killing somebody or, you know, doing harmful things is not a good thing, you know, and it's not supportive or loving to humanity. How do you regain that power, and even that kind of like, even that mustard seed of faith, right? That even in the adverse situations, that you still have that creative power.
That's probably one of the most controversial parts of what we do. There is a school of thought that says that I just mentioned we create our own reality. So that must mean that all the things that they're experiencing, we create ourselves. That is very controversial because who would want to be a small baby who dies of cancer, for example, or something like that, right?
Or is
How could,
abused. I mean, yeah,
or
I
is
don't
abused,
see.
right, exactly.
Mhm.
Uh, this is a lot of times where Karen and I differ in our thought processes. I believe that everything that happens to us, okay, let me back up even further. I believe fundamentally we are all, here we go. Will's going to get controversial, so please, I apologize.
At limited time.
I know, I'll go quickly. I believe that we are all a part of this infinite energy that people call God. We are like raindrops from the storm cloud, if you want to look at it that way. We are each individual drops of the same energy. And if this big storm cloud is that creative force that created everything, created the world and the sky and everything's going on, then we ourselves have that same amount of power in that small drop of water coming from the storm cloud. The reason why these drops came onto the world is so that the storm cloud can experience itself in its totality, the experience of what a human being is. That's why Karen says without our bodies, this gentleman we interviewed yesterday said it perfectly, without our bodies, we wouldn't be able to experience what being a human is. If you don't have a body, like look at AI, you can't say AI can ever be a human being. It doesn't have a body, can't experience it. So we're here to experience everything that it is to be a human being, good and bad. And we've all made the decision that when we come down here, here's what we're going to experience in order for us to then bring back all this collective knowledge so we can truly know ourselves in full. Everything that happens for one reason or another is for our greater good, is the thought mentality behind this. And only when you are at a level high enough where you can see the perspective, you see back behind you all the things that happened to you, where did you end up? How did everything that happened to you make you better overall at the end of life? That is really a lot of times we experience things and we say, this is terrible. How could this possibly be good for me? And yet you look back on it later on and you go, oh, yeah, that's why. I'm not going to pretend to be able to answer the folks that are abused and things like that, what could possibly happen for their own good. Only that person can see that for themselves. I can only apply it to my own life. The times when I thought my job, I was passed over for promotion 4 times. Every time I would say, oh, how's that possible? And I look back, all those people that were promoted are no longer at the company. I still am. Right? So when something bad happens to us, we feel as bad. If we're patient enough to say, it's for my own good, I just don't understand it yet. Eventually, you're going to look back and go, oh, that's why it happened. That's why. And the way to manage that when things are going bad, I would say focus on the small things. Focus on the things that you are grateful for. Look at a flower. Look at a child running in the water on the beach. Look at the small things that bring you joy, that show you the magic, the miracle of creation. And that's going to make you change your perspective to the point of, I'm not everything in the universe. This that I'm going through is not everything in the universe. Look at everything else around here. Sorry for that long answer.
And thank you for bringing it back to your personal experience. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Karen, did you want to add anything
I
from your
think,
perspective? Because you said you guys differ.
well, I don't think we differ. I think what you explained, we don't necessarily differ on.
Yeah.
But like the one, I guess there's 2 main differences, I would say. Where Will is more of a believer in soul contracts, that you've come in to be this person, to be this specific experience. I don't necessarily believe that. I think maybe you know what you need to learn, but I don't think you necessarily choose who or what you're going to be or your parents. Because I think if it's a surprise, it impacts you a little bit more. No, I just don't believe
that's
that.
what we forget when we come here. We forget
No,
that we made those choices.
Whatever. We differ in that. And I think the other main difference is, the talking about the oneness where we're all one. And I believe that we are all, it's more like a collective. We're all part of a collective. Like back in the 70s, there was this big project called Hands Across America. where they literally built a human chain holding hands from coast to coast. And there were a couple stretches, where they couldn't, but they would string like these big ropes and stuff. And it was just this incredible project. And I kind of feel like that's what we are. We're each one of those people holding hands, from coast to coast or all over, but we're separate too, because you can let go and you can take a little walk and you can come back and you can still be part of that chain, but your own individual. So I think that's kind of another place where we differ. But for the most part, I was going to say, we come, we learn, and we go back. I agree with that.
What didn't I ask that you would like to share and maybe leave people with, especially people who usually listen to this kind of content who are seeking for something. There's some sort of pain, right? Some challenges that they're going through. Kind of, it is that diamond, but the process of making a diamond is
a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure.
Just the same with the pearls, right? Pearls are made from sand. Anything that you would want to leave us with?
I would say that people need to really understand that you're so much stronger than you think you are. I mean, think of all the stuff that you've gone through in your life already, and here we are. I mean, birth, that's a toughie, So knowing that you have that strength and letting that kind of sit with you, then you can try, because it can be very, very hard when you're in that dark spot, to really notice other things and not focus on what's turning off the light, but look for little moments. And even it could be just someone says a kind word to you. Maybe you're in the hospital bed and the nurse comes in and she's like, "Oh, I hope you have a great day." Just take that little moment and hold on to it and grow it, feed it, nurture it, because those little moments strung together are the things that are going to get you through the really difficult times. And they're there. And it's so hard sometimes to get out of that darkness and look, but they're there. So please just look and notice, because it's all a bunch of little miracles, and that will help you.
And for me, to piggyback off of that, I think that, yes, it is all little miracles, and you're going to miss them. You are missing them every single day by not choosing to be present. And I say that from experience. My whole life, I've been walking around asleep. I don't notice the birds chirping when everyone's saying, "Oh my God, what a noise." Oh yeah, I guess they are. Right. Everything that we found, the universe talks to us in very subtle ways. And the only way that we're going to be able to hear the universe is if we are paying attention. And paying attention means being in the present moment. It's a very difficult thing to do in this world, but it's so important, because if we don't live in the present moment as much as we can, we're going to miss the whole reason we're here. And that is to experience our lives, good, bad, and indifferent. And when you do open yourself up to the present moment, to the miracle of the present moment, the universe then starts shows you more proof of what a miracle we are living in. And unless you are open to seeing those miracles, you're not ever going to be able to experience them.
That's true, because if you're not in the present, then you're probably very likely going to be either in a state of anxiety because you're worried about the future, or in a state of regret because you're worried about the past. Well, the past already happened, and the future you can't control. So being in the present really is
the whole cliche about it being a gift.
It is.
It's a present.
It sounds like one of those things that's so easy and trade or settle over, but somehow it still can be the hardest thing to actualize and experience. And it's also a beautiful invitation, I think, through that present moment is where you can activate that creation power.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank
Very
you
difficult.
so much for being here. And how can people find the podcast and your streaming service, if you can remind us again?
Sure. But the fastest way to get in contact with us is go to skepticmetaphysician.com. That's our website. You can find everything there, but you can find our podcasts on any podcasting platforms: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, you name it, we're on it. But our website will connect you that way. And then New Reality TV, you can
newrealitytv.com.
Yeah, or we're also on Roku and Fire TV, so you can just search for New Reality TV on Roku and Fire TV, and you can download the free app. It's all free, by the way. There's no charge. There's a place for those that would like to help support the mission. They certainly can, but the content, to watch the content, it's all free. We're not charged for that. It's not subscription or anything like that.
Thank you so much for being here and for what you do.
Thank
Thank you
you
for
so
having
much
me.
for having us. It was a pleasure.